Hey there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Not only are we in the room of Hoard today, but we're using my old camera, so hopefully it looks okay. The reason I'm doing this is because it's a little bit of a risky project. I almost want to say don't try this at home, but we're going to make some oil sticks, and I have tried this. I've perfected my recipe. Honestly, there's no way to really screw it up. And we're going to make some oil sticks, and I wanted to make sure that my oil sticks all dried and worked before I did this DIY, because there's so many DIYs on YouTube. Sometimes they're not tested, and I don't want to add to the fray of untested art supply stuff. In fact, I want to say maybe don't do this project. I want to put it out there, you know. Anyway, this is a painting I did with commercial oil sticks. I love them. They were so much fun to use, and I decided I needed to make some of my own because I had a bunch of old oil paint that I wanted to use up. And so I have made my oil sticks. I've tested them, swatched them, made sure they eventually dried. These are just a bunch of different swatches. Then I did this painting here, and this all dried. It's got a really nice texture to it. I mean, it was just like a 10-minute painting. It's nothing to write home about, but I just wanted to make sure that things were going to dry. I wanted to make sure I tried everything and made sure that it dried, and it did. So I'm going to share what I made. And here are my DIY oil sticks, and I made a little DIY container for them. But they worked out really well. Let me just I'll just grab this lid here to show you. So what you want when you make your oil stick is you want there to be a skin on it. So if I touch this, look, I'm not getting anything on my hands, but then I can either forcefully color it down to peel off the skin, or I could use a little knife to peel off the skin. And then I've got gorgeous oil paint underneath that I can create with. So you can kind of see how that skin is like rolling off. When I do that, I'm trying not to get too much paint on my hands because I need to be a little bit clean at some point here, but here you can see the skin on this one. I've broken it in a little bit there. But if I go like on this side, you're just getting that little bit of a waxy skin. So you need to kind of peel off the skin as you go when you want to use it, and they will skin over in a few days. Like this is nice and dry. But I can either wipe it with a rag, or I can just scribble it onto some cardboard to get that outer skin off. And then we've got beautiful paint that we can mix with linseed oil, or we can, you know, just sketch with on our canvas. So first thing we need to do is we need to make our thing that's going to hold our stick. So I like to take a dowel, and then I take a piece of, this is from the Dollar Tree. It's parchment patty square paper. These are, you get 100 for $1.25, and they're basically just parchment paper squares that's meant to put between hamburger patties so you can freeze them, but they are perfect for this. And what I'm going to do is just roll it around a tube. You can use a dowel, you can use any tube you have, but this dowel works really well. And this paper is designed to work with heat, so I don't have to worry that it's going to be a problem. So now I've got some packing tape here, and this has, there's another way you can do this. I'll show you in just a second. So I am just going to wrap this around. It doesn't quite meet with this dowel here, but that's all right. Do another piece. Ah, I messed up my tape. I always tend to do that. All right. When you're like focusing, you can make a bunch of these. I would cut all your tape at once. I'm just going to make one today because it's too cold to have everything open, and you really should be doing this with ventilation. That's why I'm like, you know, word to the wise and all. I'm going to go over that gap. And also, you don't want to make a bunch of these before you get your hands all dirty from messing with pigments and stuff. So this is basically it. You just kind of make sure you have a good sealed up tube. I like to do this as opposed to tin foil because I think it looks a little bit nicer, and it just works really well. Alright, so I've got 3 layers on the bottom. We're good to go. And then what I'll do oftentimes is I will put this in a jar. Now I was putting them in these little tubes that my Paul Rubens oil sticks came in, but I realized I don't really need them to be in the tube, and sometimes they would get stuck in there, but I will keep it kind of in there for pouring. So now what we need to do is melt down the things that we're going to make our sticks with. So basically what you need is pigment, wax, and linseed oil. And I have a bunch of old oil paint to use up, and this oil paint is pigment and linseed oil. And then I need wax. You can use beeswax, which I have done, but I found that I got the best results with a combination of pastels, oil pastels, and crayons. So these are not really, you're not using these for the color, so but choose colors that are pretty similar so it won't fight against what you're going to make, but you're not really getting the color from this so much as you are getting the firmness and the rigidity of it. So this is basically going to help it keep its shape, and you are going to get some color from this, so you know, use a decent pastel, but most of your colors coming from the paint you're going to use. So then what I'm going to do, I have this, this is a old pancake griddle that is obviously art dedicated now, because you can see it's got paint spilled on it. I'm going to turn this up to about, I'm going to go about 275 degrees Fahrenheit, because you are going to lose some heat with the, with our process here. And I've got this muffin tin from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to cut off one of these cups. Be careful, this is very sharp. So again, this is one of these, I don't know if you want to try this at home. If I didn't have a bunch of old oil paint, then I would say just buy the oil sticks. But since I had a bunch of oil paint that I wanted to use up, this is ideal, because the oil paint will stay good pretty much indefinitely in the stick, because the outside will skim over, but then you've got all that paint on the inside. So be very careful while you bend these down so you don't cut yourself. And then I just want to make a little spout. Now some people will save cans and they'll use cans for this. I apologize for the humming this is making. Don't leave it unattended. I just want to set this down so it's flat. Now I would generally do a huge batch of these at once, but since we're just making one stick today, maybe two, I'll show you the other way I do it too, is I'll take these little ice cube trays are from like water bottles, and you can make them in here too, but I find these to be very messy and it's really hard to clean them out really well, so I recommend doing the tube. So the outside of that might get a little dirty, but I'm not going to worry about it. The fumes that you're seeing, the smoke, is from the dried stuff on this griddle. Like I said, I'm just making one today because it is cold and I don't want to ventilate my basement. So what I'm going to do is start off with a nice dark blue pastel, peel off the wrapper. Whoops. Holy cow, that's really noisy, isn't it? You guys asked for this. And I'm not sure if I recommend doing it, honestly. I mean, we got fumes, we got flammable stuff. I should get a knife here. I'm gonna go find a knife. Thing I love about this old camera is that you can do this you can pause the recording so you can kind of like edit while you're doing it. I'm just gonna throw these pastels right in there. I might need to actually bring out another muffin tin because I feel like I'm gonna have a little bit too much in there. Oh, another thing, I wouldn't do the muffin tins again. I would buy the mini muffin pans from like Amazon if I was going to do this, because A, that's sharp, and B, I can just get one stick's worth in here, and oftentimes I feel like I want a little bit more. So yeah, lots of caveats with this. I'm not sure if I'm really if I really recommend this project. So you want to get this melted down before you add your oil paint. Now I was adding oil paint. Some I just did with oil paint, some I added extra linseed oil to. I found that as long as I put oil paint in there, and it was like half oil paint, half pastels, anywhere from like 1/3 oil paint to half oil paint, it had plenty of drying oils in it. But if you're concerned you don't have enough, you can add linseed oil to it. I was seeing people make these where they were, and several people where they were just like putting the oil paint on a napkin to draw out the oil before they did this, and it's like, and then adding linseed oil back in, and it made absolutely no sense to me. So I'm like, well, I'm gonna do this without doing that and see how I get on doing it that way. And that's what we're going to do here today. It does take a little bit of time to melt, so we'll be back when this is all melted. Once you have this liquefied, I'm actually going to turn down the heat just a little bit, you can add your oil paint. I'm going to try to add the rest of this tube of ultramarine in there. I might be able to get a little bit more than this, but I think they'll be pretty good. So you're shooting for about 1/3 to 1/2 of oil paint. And that's going to give you the drying oil you need too. But if you're concerned about not having enough drying oil, you can go ahead and add some linseed oil to it, because your oil pastels have a non-drying oil in them. And so and because of that, you need to counteract that. Otherwise, you're just going to have oil pastels, right? So the oil in the oil paint, the linseed oil in the oil paint, it's a drying oil. The oil in your pastel is a non-drying oil. So you need to make sure you have enough drying oil to make sure everything dries. I hope that makes sense. This is a little tricky. This is how I got my skillet all dirty, is by was stirring it and it would like splash out. I just want to get that nice and mixed in. If you have a color that you know is like, it takes forever to dry, or well, the more oil you put into it too, the longer it's going to take to dry, but the harder it's going to dry. It can also make it a little bit more translucent. So, I mean, you can have fun really creating your custom mixes. I'm going to try to get a little bit more paint in there. I've got some of this. Hopefully I can open it up. I might not be able to though. Oh man. I've had to cut some of the tubes from the bottom when I've wanted more paint, because it's like, otherwise I just can't get the lid off. Oh, I don't know if I want to do that though. Ah! Well, you know what? I think we're going to call that. I have another thing of ultramarine glue right here I can use. Now, of course, the quality of the paint you use is going to be indicative of the quality of the stick you get. So if you're using really cheap stuff, you're going to have a lower quality product. But I was just playing around, so I wasn't too worried about it. And this stuff is hot, so you'll want to have a pair of pliers or something to hold this while you do stirring and stuff. Again, I would say go with the little mini loaf pans from Amazon. You can get a pretty good price on those if you're getting a large amount. I was just at the Dollar Tree. I just didn't even know how this was going to work out, and I wanted to keep my budget low, because really I was trying to use up stuff I already had. Otherwise I could just go buy more oil sticks, but I think it's fun to make your own supplies. Oh yeah, this is going to be good. This is going to give us this will give us an ultramarine blue stick. I might have to turn my heat back up, but let's see. Hopefully this all integrates well. It doesn't take that long to melt down. And I'm usually doing a bunch at once, so it's a little bit more time effective, I should say. I say cost effective, but you make better use of your time. But you can seriously spend a lot of time doing this, and unless you already have paint you want to use up, I don't think it's the most cost effective project in the world. Alright, so now this is all melted. What I'm going to do is bring over, let's see if I can scoot this over. I was going to pause it and move it all the way out of the way, but I think I'll just scoot this over a little bit. And I'm going to try to fill this little tube that we made. Sometimes it goes really easily, and other times it's a big mess. I really don't want to see a swirl. I'm seeing a little bit of a swirl of color. I want to make sure that's uniform before I pour it in, so that when you use a stick, you're not getting ooh, what do I get today? Light blue, dark blue? No, you want it uniform. And it's got to be in a very liquid consistency. If it's not super liquid, you can use the little ice cube molds, and that'll be fine. Okay, that looks pretty. That's a beautiful ultramarine blue, isn't it? All right, here we go. And we're going to try pouring that in there. I usually start above a little bit so I can get a little bit of a stream going, and then fill it right up to the top. And then I'll probably let that cool down a little bit and then do more. But actually, I have another tube prepared. What do I do with that? I'm going to try to fill another one here. I always have extra. I would make a ton of these at once actually, and then that's not too much that I have in there, but I'm just gonna I can always cut down the wrapper if I need to. I'm going to top off the first one because it's already starting to cool and shrink. And then I just let it cool here at room temperature. I'm going to tap this one down because it didn't have quite as much in there. I could have poured that in the ice cube tray, honestly, but I prefer these wrappers because then I have to wrap the ones that are in the ice cube tray and it's kind of a drag. Or I can make it more ultramarine and top it up if I wanted to, but there you have it. When it's done, all you do is you just cut the wrapper back a little bit so you can expose the end of the stick, and then you can use it and then just let it dry out. It's so easy to maintain. It's really a lot of fun. You can use these in lots of different projects, and there you have it. I want to say, I don't know if I want to say I hope you give it a try, but just be careful if you give it a try. There's some, you know, there's stuff that you have to be careful of, so take care, have fun, and good luck. Good luck. This is not for children. Don't try this at home. I don't know, try it at home if you want to, but there you have it. Thanks for watching. Until next time, happy crafting. Bye!